Them up any me, can't study me. For no reason at all, they criticize me. Them up any me, can't study me. For no reason at all, they criticize me. Yo, can you guys hear me? Let me know if you can hear me in the chat. Hello, hello, hello. Yes, yes, yes. Them up any me, can't study me. For no reason at all, they criticize me. Them can't trouble me, neither worry me. I'm protected by the power of the Trinity. I'm like a seed planted in fertile soil. I bear good fruit and you know them can't spoil. Pot it a bubble and food eat a boil. I'm a survivor, I tell you all the while. You know, I like to start it with a song. What's happening, people? What is happening? Okay, they're saying the audio's a bit choppy. You guys hear me fine? What's happening? This is it. What? Just wait for the chat room to fill up a little bit. Sing some more songs. This is it. What? Lucini pouring from the sky. Let's get rich. What? The jiggy vines and sugar dimes can't quit. What? Now pop the cork and steam the Vega and get lit. What? 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 This is it. What? Lucini pouring from the sky. Let's get rich. What? The jiggy vines and sugar dimes can't quit. What? Now pop the cork and steam the Vega and get lit. What? 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 If you know, you know. All right, who we got in the chat room here? We got some heavy Nigerian presence in the chat room. Heavy. Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. Shout out to Amanda, repping Nige. Okay. Leo says thoughts on Vibes Cartel. Vibes looks crazy right now. He looks crazy. That's all I can tell you. He is looking crazy. I'm seeing a Bengali flag there. The Bangladesh flag. Where was that? Let me go back. Is that my boy? Is that my boy Wasib with a Bengali flag? Where's he gone? I swear I saw a Bengali, a random Bengali flag pop up. Yes, yes, yes. Anyway, let's just get straight into the boxing talk here, right? Now, the first thing I want you guys to do, I don't normally stream on this channel anymore, as you may have noticed, because I've got a dedicated live stream channel, and that's where I want to do all my live streams moving forward. All right. So make sure you click the link in the description. Go subscribe to my live stream channel because that's where the party's gonna be. All right. I've done a few live streams on there, and the last live stream I did on there was a while ago. I think it was for Johnny Fisher against Alan Babbage, and that didn't last long. But yeah, I'm gonna do a lot more of them, a lot more frequently, and they'll be over there. So make sure you check out and go subscribe to the live stream channel. All right. Afro Soul said, "Who's Hatman beefing with now?" Beef? There's no beef here. It's all fun and games. None of these guys can't beef me. Come on. Come on. Oscar says, wonder what Simon Cowell would vote on the singing. Definitely a no from him. Without a shadow of a doubt. I don't sing because I'm good at it. I just sing because I like it. That's all. You know, singing in the shower vibes. All right, let's talk about some boxing here. Let's talk about some boxing. So, where we at? Get OBS up. So here we have Eduardinho Hearn as what's his name now? Parsons likes to call him Eduardinho. This is Eddie Hearn here. He just dropped this interview on the Matchroom Boxing channel, and he's talking about the Shakur Stevenson deal. So he's just signed Shakur Stevenson. It's only a 2-fight deal, people. Yeah, that's one thing that needs to be understood. It's only a 2-fight deal. And the fights he's talking about, obviously, Joe Cordina on the Saudi card. That's on the undercard of Beterbiev Bivol. And after that, he's looking at matching him with this man right here, William Zepeda. So it's just a 2-fight deal, those fights. And he thinks if he does a good enough job for Shakur Stevenson, he'll sign a longer term contract with him, and he reckons he'll get the Tank Davis fight. I have my doubts because Tank Davis is a hell of a diva. And the way boxing works in America, fans don't tend to really get behind you in America, generally, unless you've really beaten somebody that they know, somebody who they perceive to be the best or one of the best. And when you've got an organization like PBC that operates almost like a cult, actually trying to get hold of one of their top fighters and fight him is like trying to get blood from a stone. It's extremely difficult. So again, Shakur Stevenson is in a difficult situation because he's not the most exciting fighter to watch. He wants to fight Tank Davis, but Tank Davis is going to make him jump through hoops of fire and swim through swim pools full of razor blades, right, to try and get the fight. That's the way they move over there at PBC. That's the way they do things. So I think Shakur Stevenson has to try and become a star in his own right, not worry about Tank, not even think about Tank, just do his own thing and build his profile. He might actually have to build his profile more so outside the United States before they recognize him as that guy inside the United States. Do you know what I mean? And he's going to need to start producing exciting performances. No more of the safety first stuff, the antiseptic boxing. He's going to need to get these guys out of there. And Eddie Hearn is giving him Joe Cordina, who's moving up in weight, right, to take this fight, coming off a KO loss. He should be able to deal with him. If he can't deal with Joe Cordina in punishing fashion, then where's he really going? So, yeah, they're looking to match him. Well, he is fighting Cordina. And if he comes through that, William Zepeda, and he needs to do a good job on William Zepeda. That's what he needs to do if he's going to become a star in his own right. So, yeah, Stevenson, that's him. And obviously, here's the prize, the diva himself, Tank Davis. Let's see if that fight ever happens. I hope it does. I mean, Tank Davis is what, 30 now? Is he in? He's in his 30s, right? What are they saying in the chat? In fact, let me get it up on the box rec here. I'm sure Tank Davis is mind the keyboard sounds here, folks. I'm sure he's in his 30s now. He must be 30 years old. 29, okay. A year short. All right, Tank Davis is 29. Well, more or less. So, yeah. What's Tank Davis really going to do without fighting, the other major names in America? He's just going to diva himself into obscurity, surely. So all Stevenson needs to do is his job at this stage, right? Anyway, what else we got coming up? So there's a show headlined by, let's get it up here, Diego Pacheco, right? He's headlining against this guy here, Sulecki. Yeah. And Eddie Hearn was talking about this in his latest interview. This is going to be on the 31st, so this is next weekend, next Saturday coming. And on the undercard, you've got Chev Clarke. Here's Chev. Chev is kind of in a difficult situation right now because nobody domestically really seems to want to fight him. So, what's the guy called now? Vidal Riley doesn't really seem to want to fight Chev Clarke. Isaac Chamberlain has lost, and he didn't seem too keen on fighting Chev Clarke. Jack Massey is fighting for the world title. So, what's Chev Clarke really doing now? Alois Jr. is nowhere near ready for Chev Clarke as far as I'm concerned. And so, Chev's going to do what? Aim for a world title? Who's going to fight him among the world champions? Is Chris Billam-Smith going to fight him? I think Chris Billam-Smith is probably trying to sort out a unification with Gilberto Ramirez. Yeah? So Chev Clarke probably ain't going to get Chris Billam-Smith anytime soon. Does he really want to go for Opetaya? If Chev Clarke wanted to go for Opetaya, I'm sure he could get the fight. They're both with Matchroom, right? But, so many fighters don't really want to take that route because Opetaya has got a mad look in his eyes. Some people say he didn't look impressive in his last fight against Myris Breedis. It's Myris Breedis, folks. You understand how good Myris Breedis is, how tough he is, how dangerous he is, how experienced he is? You're not supposed to go in there and just blast out Myris Breedis the same way you blasted out Ellis Zorro. It's a different level of fighter. So, anyway, I don't think, for me anyway, the performance of Opetaya in the Breedis rematch, that doesn't, to me, detract from how good Jai Opetaya is. Yeah, he beat him better than he did the first time around when he got his jaw broken. He still had some issues in there, don't get it twisted. He still got roughed up a little bit, but he beat him better the second time around. And yes, there was a big gap between the two fights. I don't think Breedis fought between the two fights, did he? So he was an older guy, inactive, but he'd been in with Opetaya before, so he knew what to expect. And he'd evidently kept himself in shape. So, yeah, I don't really take too much credit away from Opetaya having a few issues against Breedis in the rematch. So, anyway, Chev Clarke is fighting in America on the undercard of Pacheco versus Sulecki. Some of you may remember that Sulecki fought, God, I think he fought Danny Jacobs. He fought Demetrius Andrade as well. So he's not really any great shakes. I guess you could call him a fringe contender. Only the 2 losses. And as I say, he's taking on, where are we at? Diego Pacheco. Yeah. So they're fighting each other. Pacheco is a matchroom guy, of course. 21-0, 17 KOs, ridiculously tall, 6'4", just 23 years of age. Taking on Sulecki. It should be plain sailing for him, right? And Chev Clarke is taking on this guy on the undercard, a Nigerian, right? Calls himself the Nigerian Pitbull, 36 years of age, 5'11", birthplace Nigeria, residence Texas, Houston, Texas. He is 12-2, all 12 of his wins coming by knockout. Eddie Hearn is trying to say this is a tough fight for Chev Clarke. I've never seen this guy, but I'm definitely going to go look him up because Chev Clarke, in a couple of his early fights, looked a bit vulnerable. Yeah, he got caught by a couple journeymen in a couple of early fights and wobbled. We haven't seen that again since, but if this guy can punch the way his record suggests he can, right, 12-0 with 12 KOs, it could get sticky for Chev. So we'll see. Let me know what you guys think about this fight. Let me know what you think about the main event as well. Pacheco against Sulecki. And also, I'm going to read your comments now. What you guys think of the Stevenson situation? Should call Stevenson signing with Matchroom? Can he actually turn himself into a star? What do you guys think? Let's have a look at the comments over here. Just pop out the chat a second. Okay. Ernest says Opetaya would smoke Billam-Smith. I tend to agree. Apochi trains with Ronnie Shields. I guess that's the Nigerian guy, right? The Nigerian pit bull. Okay. Kipton Anthony says African fighters are strong and never tire. I'm not sure about never tire, but you know. This guy says, Hatman, who wins, Mike Tyson or Sonny Liston? I'd say Mike Tyson, not with a massive amount of confidence, because you look at the Holyfield fights and you think, well, if Holyfield was able to get underneath Tyson like that and shut him down on the inside, maybe Liston could do something similar. Stronger guy than Holyfield, bigger puncher, longer reach. But I don't know. Holyfield had a particular set of skills. I'm making him sound like Liam Neeson now. He had a particular set of skills and a certain degree of experience, you know, fighting really big, strong, powerful heavyweights like Riddick Bowe 3 times, George Foreman, and so on. And so by the time he fought Tyson, Tyson's power was never going to bother him, you know, because of the experience he had. It was more the speed, the pressure fighting skill that Mike Tyson had, the elusive aggression. But Holyfield managed to deal with it all. I know the Tyson fanboys are going to talk about headbutts and steroids and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, Holyfield lost to Michael Moorer. Moorer didn't, you know, he didn't find Holyfield invincible because of headbutts and steroids. Riddick Bowe beat him. He didn't find him invincible because of headbutts and steroids. But somehow what? Mike Tyson couldn't get the job done because of these alleged headbutts and steroids. I say alleged steroids because he was never caught for the Tyson fights, obviously. And as far as the headbutts, I mean, Mike Tyson was headbutting more in the first Holyfield fight than Holyfield was. Like, come on. Anyway, let me not get dragged into that. You know, the Tyson fans will come out in force. Yes, yes, big up, outmatch. How you doing, my bro? Peter says Moses Italma Nigerian descent. Yes, Moses Italma is half Nigerian and half Slovakian. That's what he is. Nigerian dad, Slovakian mother. It is Slovakia, right? It's not one of the other countries in Eastern Europe. I'm pretty sure it's Slovakia. It's not like Serbia. Pretty sure it's Slovakia. Okay, imagine Jack says, Pura vida, Hatman, listening from Costa Rica. Oh, you're in Costa Rica too? Whereabouts in Costa Rica? Afro Soul says Hatman's 2 favorite fighters, Usyk and Italma. um, I do like Usyk and Italma. I've always liked southpaw heavyweights that can punch because one of my favorite fighters of all time was Corey Sanders. Yeah, the guy who knocked out Vladimir Klitschko. But I liked him way before that. The first time I watched him fight, I liked Corey Sanders. I liked his style. His southpaw left was crazy. He had crazy hand speed. I always thought he was a bit of an underachiever, Corey Sanders. But yeah, he was my favorite southpaw heavyweight back in the days. Now, Usyk may have superseded him, but Usyk can't punch like Corey Sanders. Usyk's got respectable power, but Corey Sanders' power was crazy. And he was faster as well. The hand speed was crazy. We got True Geordie in the chat. Shout out to True Geordie. Yes, yes. True Geordie knows what it's like to face the wrath of the Tyson Fury fanboys. Gotta be a brave man to take them on. Yes, who else we got in here? Yeah, Corey Sanders was an absolute beast offensively. His heart wasn't really in boxing because he actually was a good golf player, like a really good golf player. And he also played rugby. and he had a ranch in South Africa. So, he had a lot of distractions away from boxing. He wasn't really 100% focused on it. True Geordie says, you partly inspired my Tyson Fury interview. Got a lot of my boxing education from you, mate. All the best. All the best, True Geordie. Big up. Doing big things. Same Hussein in the chat. Big up, big up. Yeah, Hyper Spaz. Yeah, it's sad the way Corey Sanders went out. Uh, yeah, it was messed up. He was actually at his, I think, daughter's birthday party or something, and some robbers came in and held up the place, and bullets were flying, and RIP. Very sad. Okay, this guy says, Hatman, who wins? Bakatir, Jalolov, or Atalma? Right now, I'd have to go for Jalolov. I'd have to go for Jalolov right now. I don't think stylistically that's not a good one for him. Jalolov doesn't really have much more professional experience, but he's got a lot more amateur experience. What is he, double gold medalist now? So, yeah, double gold medalist. And what is going on with Bakadir Jalolov, by the way? Why is he not turning, like, why is he not properly turning pro? Because he has turned pro, but they keep letting these amateurs compete in the Olympics. And you see how Jalolov has just mashed up all the guys he's fought in the Olympics when he's got all this professional experience and professional training. It's like, come on, man, what is he hiding from? It's as if he's reluctant to go full on in the pros. I know in Eastern Europe and, well, Central Asia, right? Was he from Uzbekistan? Excuse me. That's in Central Asia rather than Eastern Europe, right? But anyway, I know guys from the old Eastern Bloc take amateur boxing more seriously in the sense that the Olympics to them is like the pinnacle of their careers. Whereas in the West, we're not quite as excited about amateur boxing as the old Eastern Bloc guys are, because obviously prior to the fall of the Iron Curtain, they didn't have professional boxing. So amateur boxing reached a certain level of esteem in the old Eastern Bloc that it never quite did in the West. So I guess it's a legacy of that. That's why they're still really attached to the amateurs and winning Olympic gold and all that type of stuff. To them, that's like the pinnacle. But either way, I just don't get this thing with Jalolov. How many gold medals do you need to win? The guy's like, what, 28, 29 now? So let's get his professional career up and running, start fighting some proper contenders. What's going on with Jalolov? Yeah, Uzbekistan has got a lot of talent. They're doing their thing, but I just wish Jalolov in particular would start, concentrating more on the pro game than the amateur game. Outmatch says Jalolov has that bully mindset. He'll unravel when someone sticks it on him. Well, he kind of unraveled when he fought Joe Joyce in the amateurs years ago. I know Jalolov was a young guy at the time, but Joyce started boxing quite late, so he didn't have that much more experience than Jalolov at the time. And he stuck it on Jalolov, and Jalolov looked like he wanted to quit in that fight. That fight's on YouTube for anyone who wants to watch it. So, yeah. James Clifford says, I met Michael Mora in June at his International Boxing Hall of Fame induction. His acceptance speech was one of the best, where he criticized the business of boxing and the lack of welfare for boxers. Yeah, Michael Mora was an absolute beast at 175 pounds. He was a beast in that weight class. Let me tell you something. Yeah. You don't want to mess with Michael Mora at 175. When he moved up to heavyweight, because he skipped cruiserweight completely, moved up to heavyweight. He wasn't really built for that weight class. You know, his punch resistance didn't really hold up at heavyweight. But at light heavyweight, he was a beast, you know. And that's not to diminish his achievements at heavyweight, because he did beat Holyfield at the end of the day. He did become heavyweight champion, unified, not undisputed. But yeah, light heavyweight is where he really shone. But at the time, nobody wanted to fight him, and all the money was in the heavyweight division. So he pursued that instead. Okay, this guy says Ivan Ditchko is another promising talent rotting on the vine. Yeah, Ditchko fought AJ in the 2012 Olympics. Can you imagine? And Ditchko did beat a good few people in the amateurs, you know, good fighters. But what on earth he's doing in the pros at this point is anyone's guess. Isn't he signed with Pro Box? You know, the guys who have that YouTube channel, Pro Box, that Paulie Malignaggi and Chris Algieri are on. I think they put on shows, right? Because I saw an interview, I think it was on the Boxing Voice with the guy who owns Pro Box, and he was saying a load of stuff. He was actually criticizing Turkey Al Sheikh and a bunch of other things. And I swear he mentioned, or Ness mentioned to him, Ivan Ditchko, as if he was one of his fighters. So, you know, in the heavyweight division in particular, and many other divisions, but especially heavyweight, if you're not with one of the major promoters, where you really going? You know, where you really going? You have to go with the promoter that has the fighters, the promoter that has the stable. Outmat says Ditchko too busy flapping around like a babkin. Yes. Yes, yes. All right, 1 second, peeps. 1 second here. Gonna take a little intermission. Be back in just a few ticks. Okay, I'm back. It's a quick little break there. Let's get back to some comments here. Where we at? A shout out to Adam for the super chat. Much appreciated, sir. PF says JFK Jr. has blown up the internet. Uh, so on and so forth. Love you, Hat Man. Hey, love you right back. Blackouts suck. So hopefully no blackouts. Okay. Comment here says, so in your opinion, Hatman, a heavyweight should try and sign with Frank Warren right now? Frank Warren or Eddie Hearn? Yeah, because Eddie Hearn, even though he doesn't have a lot of heavyweights, he is collaborating a lot with Frank Warren at the moment due to their association with Turkey Al Sheikh. And right now, Turkey is making it financially attractive for them to put their fighters in against each other. That's what he's doing. So if you were a heavyweight and you wanted to sign, let's say, a 3-fight deal with Eddie Hearn, you can go ahead and do that. But part of your deal should be, let's say if you want to fight a particular Frank Warren fighter, that needs to be worked into the deal. That Eddie Hearn will try and make that fight, and maybe you want to get certain assurances from the management of whichever Frank Warren heavyweight. Our comment here says, Hatman, what do you think about Turkey Al Sheikh's boxing league in 2025? We'll see if it comes to fruition. We'll see if it comes to fruition. Duffy is back, says, remember Faz? Undefeated. Yeah, Faz. What did he used to say all the time? Job done, many thanks. That was Faz, innit? Job done, many thanks. Corey says, Hatman, I think this heavyweight era only gets the praise it deserves if AJ versus Daniel Dubois is a Froch versus Groves 1 type of fight. Well, let's hope we get that. Personally, I think that if AJ demolishes Dubois, it will elevate this current era. And by current era, I'm talking about the era that's just about over. The era of AJ, Fury, Usyk, that era. If AJ demolishes Dubois, it pushes this era up, especially if Dubois comes back and goes on to be a world champion in future. Do you know what I mean? Because then people will look back and say, wow, this guy Dubois, who's beating everybody at world level, let's say in 2028, 2029, AJ demolished him in a couple rounds back in the days. Just think about how great that era must have been. Do you know what I mean? A big up Adam again for the super chat. He says, will you ever return to fantasy matchups? Yeah, if people watch the videos, much of my content is user driven. Sometimes I'll make certain videos and I really put a lot of effort into it, and it really doesn't get a lot of views or a lot of likes. So it depends on what the viewers go for. If I make a certain type of video and the viewers really respond to it and it gets traction, then I'll make more of them. Afro Soul says, I wonder what's going on with Yard. He's wasting his prime years, it seems. Yard. Anthony Yard. You can't mention Anthony Yard without mentioning Tunde Ajayi. You can't mention Anthony Yard without mentioning Tunde Ajayi. And it would seem as though, look, I'm not inside their camp, but as an outsider looking in, I would suspect that Tunde has spoken to Anthony and convinced him that he needs to hold out for more money during this final phase of his career? Because how many more losses can Anthony Yard have before he significantly loses commercial value or loses significant commercial value? You know? So in this final phase of his career, they really want to get the most possible. I think that's what it is. But you're playing a dangerous game because you risk getting frozen out by upsetting Bricktop. So we'll see how it works out. Shout out to Hyperspaz for the super chat. It says, love the channel. Your early Beterbiev Bivol pick. You know, prior to the pullout, I was going Beterbiev. I'm slightly leaning towards Bivol now because I'm not sure about the injury with Beterbiev. Now, some people don't believe it was an injury. Some people think it was a cover for PED use because this is what was insinuated by, again, Tunde Ajayi and Anthony Yard. They insinuated, they noticed he'd pulled out of multiple fights in the past with quote-unquote injuries. And, you know, his fight with Beterbiev got pushed back. And they kind of insinuated, without saying it explicitly, they insinuated that there's something not right there with that guy. And obviously there was that weird finding, I think it was in the run-up to the Callum Smith fight or afterwards. So some people think it's that. But if we just take it at face value, because, you know, I don't know whether it's PEDs or a genuine injury, but if it is a genuine injury, that's a cause for concern because the injury that he was said to have is quite serious. So, I don't know, I would lean more towards Bivol. He's been more active and all that, but if it's a hell, I might change my mind closer to the fight. I'd like to see Beterbiev in training or something, but, you know, prime for prime, I'd lean towards Beterbiev. I think his jab and his just physical strength and his underrated skill would get to Dmitry Bivol in the end. But we'll see, I guess. Yes, yes. Big up everyone in the chat. Can't get to everyone, but big up to everyone same way. Big up South Star. Is that the very same South Star that used to go by the name South Star Online from back in the days? Damn right, hit the likes, people. Hit the likes. Help me out here. All right, shout out to this guy. First of all, for the super chat. But secondly, for the hilarious name, which I'm not sure I even want to pronounce. Will the algorithm zap me for even pronouncing this name? I'll just call him Swaggins. Before the algorithm thinks I'm doing a video about something completely different. Yeah, Swaggins. The Lord of the Rings inspired name. Shout out to Swaggins for the super chat. Shout out to Chili Beef. Yes, yes. Keep up the Carmine banter, Father Gascoigne. Okay, yes. South Star Online, the abbreviated 2024 version. Big up. Big up South Star every time. Old school. Foundation. What do you mean? BG says, is Dylan White still banned from fighting in the UK? I'm assuming so. I'm assuming so. Until he smooths out that situation with the British Boxing Board of Control, I'll be surprised if he's allowed to fight in the UK. His last fight was in Ireland. And I love the PR that Dylan White used for his last fight. He said, well, you see, I've got some Irish ancestry, so I went over to Ireland to meet them for the first time. Oh, is that the only reason he fought in obscurity in Ireland? Nice cover story. Afro Soul says Dylan is done. At this point, I can't even tell if he can beat Chisora. Yeah, it's his punch resistance, isn't it? It's his punch resistance. He's still got the fire, but his chin ain't been right for quite a few years now. Let's be real. Am I Dead Yet says, didn't he fight in Gibraltar not too long ago, Dylan White? He fought in Gibraltar during the global shutdown, right? A couple of years ago. I'm not aware of him fighting in Gibraltar since. And that was the Povetkin rematch in Gibraltar, right? Lost Poet says, who's the only fighter who can beat Usyk in your opinion? I don't think there's necessarily only one fighter who can beat Usyk. I wouldn't say there's necessarily only one. Yeah. Okay. Genius said what he said, and 100%. I'm just careful of the algorithm, you know? There are many words I'd like to use on this platform that I don't for the sake of the algorithm. Jackie Boy Johnson says Sean Porter can beat Usyk. Oh yeah, getting back to the Usyk question. It wouldn't shock me if someone like a Martin Bacoli could actually go in there and get the job done against Usyk. Because I've always figured that to beat Usyk, you're really going to need to put it on him. All this messing about on the back foot and trying to box and all this stuff. I don't know why people are still trying to do it. I almost feel frustrated with Tyson Fury. You know, I almost feel it's like, don't get it twisted. I thought it would be bad for boxing if Tyson Fury won, but just from a purely boxing science perspective in my head, I was thinking surely he can't be the third British heavyweight to go in there and try and box Usyk after what happened to the two previous guys. Surely Fury can't be that foolish. Evidently he was. you gotta go in there and stick it on the guy. And I'm sure it's not as easy as it seems. Yeah? Easier said than done. Shout to Fight Sports Talk. Big up, big up. That's my bro there from New Zealand. He says James Ali Bashir has criticized both AJ and Dubois in terms of their training teams. Do you think he sees them as soft compared to the old school guys? Are you talking about, does he see the fighters or the training teams as soft? I guess you mean the training teams. Um, I don't know. I guess you'd have to ask him, but old school trainers tend to be kind of disparaging towards new school trainers in general. They don't like a lot of the S&C stuff and the nutrition stuff, and they say, "Oh, you don't need all that." You know, um, Tyson Fury's always kind of had an old school training setup. He's never really gone, as far as I'm aware, anyway. Never really gone for the advanced new school stuff. Anthony Joshua is more the new school guy. So, it's different schools of thought, but when Evander Holyfield was fighting back in the days, he was seen as like an Ivan Drago. I mean, never mind all the roids and all that kind of those accusations. We all know about Evan Fields and all that, but all of that aside, I'm talking about his training methods. Yeah, because Holyfield used to use what was high technology at the time, you know, various machines and all sorts of stuff, different type of gym equipment, which was new and advanced for that particular time period. And so he was seen as like the 21st century heavyweight before the 21st century, if you know what I mean. That's how Holyfield was described. And so Anthony Joshua is in that kind of mode. Fighters like AJ are in that kind of mode. They're always thinking what technology can do to take them to the next level. But you've always had the old school fighters who say, you don't need any of that. That's all gimmicky. That's all rubbish, so on and so forth. So it all comes down to what works for you at the end of the day. It's all about what works for you. But yeah, shout out to Fight Sports Talk. Shout out to Dan for the super chat. Said, been a long time subscriber. Just wanted to show love. Big up every time, Dan. But yeah, Usyk. If a guy like Bacoli could just go in there and stick it on him and be willing to take shots to land his own, he might be able to do it with his style. Because when Bacoli's in shape, and yeah, he got rid of Jared Anderson, he'd need to be in the next level of condition to beat Usyk. Yeah? When Bacoli's in shape, he can throw a lot of punches for the whole fight, So I wouldn't be surprised if an in-shape Martin Bacoli, he might need to get down to, under 270, let's say 260, 265. He may need to get down to that to give himself the best chance. But somebody that could really stick. Now, obviously, it's the heavyweight division. Usyk is a small guy. He's an older guy. If he gets caught with a big shot out the blue from many of these heavyweights, it could be curtains, right? But that can happen to anyone at any time. But stylistically, I think someone like Bacoli might be able to cause him issues and, maybe get the job done. But I'm not sure Usyk is going to stick around that long after the Fury rematch if it goes ahead. I'm not sure he'll stick around that long. All right, Rayman says Fury showboating was ridiculous because he was getting outboxed. And that's something I warned about before the fight. I said to watch out for Fury's showboating. Watch out for his showboating because it's not something that Fury invented, obviously, but it's something that some fighters do in order to distract the audience and distract the judges and distract the viewers at home. Distract them from what the opponent is actually doing. Yeah? And also it's designed to put an exclamation mark on the end of your own work. So if you land a jab, in fact, if you throw a couple shots and they're kind of blocked by your opponent, but you showboat and you stick your tongue out and you start doing all this stuff after throwing them, psychologically, people are thinking, oh, wow, that was actually really good work he did there. Look how confident, look how he's goading the guy, look how he's gloating after he's landed those 2 shots. When actually those 2 shots were blocked. Tyson Fury does a lot of that, and I knew he was going to do more showboating than normal against Usyk. I knew he was going to do that because he feels like he needs to. Yeah? And in those early rounds, I defy anyone to show me the clean shots that Tyson Fury was landing to Usyk's head. Usyk was landing more body shots. He was landing more head shots. Really in the first 3 rounds. But somehow there were people afterwards who were so bamboozled by the showboating and the posturing that they thought Fury was basically a clean sweep through the first 7. I mean, are you having a laugh? But that's the magic of Tyson Fury. He's like a magician, a conjurer. Shout out to Pickles for the super chat. Big up, big up. He said, remembered a great video you did called Why Some Men Hate Anthony Joshua. Went back to rewatch only to discover I left a dislike. What kind of young man was I? maybe a young man, I don't know, who didn't like Anthony Joshua at the time or did like, I don't know. Yeah, big up for the super chat though, Pickles. Outmatch says Bacoli is the second best sparring champion behind Charlie Zelenov. Yeah, Charlie Zelenov, legend in the game. Is he still doing his thing, Zelenov? Or is he retired? What was he now? 200 0? Zelenov, as crazy as a box of frogs, that guy. As crazy as a box of frogs. Yeah, you know, in those middle rounds, Tyson Fury was doing good work. Yeah. And because he has such confident body language that it doesn't just have an effect on the crowd and on the judges and on the viewers at home, it can also have an effect on his opponents, right? When he actually starts to connect and then he's showboating, it has an effect on a lot of opponents. But the thing that really sticks in my head is that in the first, let's say, 3 rounds, Fury wasn't landing as many clean shots to the head as Usyk was. He really wasn't landing hardly any clean shots to the head at all in the first 3 rounds, but Usyk was landing clean shots. But then around the fourth, fifth, sixth, Fury started landing clean shots. So he obviously made an adjustment, right? And people who are picking Fury in the rematch, and it's not ridiculous to pick him in the rematch, but people who are picking him in the rematch, they're saying, well, he just needs to replicate what he did in the middle of the fight. The problem is, Usyk obviously adjusted because outside of those rounds, Fury wasn't able to land that uppercut of his that was doing so much damage with that type of force outside of those 3 rounds in the middle of the fight. So obviously Usyk adjusted. And now Usyk's going to be going into the rematch having already made adjustments, you know? So it's high level chess. Shout out to Joseph King. He said, the man who famously pinged your head around the ring in sparring back in the day, which pro do you think he's stylistically most similar to? Which guy are you talking about? You talking about the little like cruiserweight? It was an African cruiserweight guy from one of the French-speaking African countries, and he pinged my head around in sparring. I couldn't land a glove on him. It was unbelievable. He wasn't really a hard puncher, but man, this guy was lighting me up like a Christmas tree. Christmas tree. And this was at Fitzroy Lodge, ABC. Got in the ring and sparred this like French African guy, and he just was pinging me all over the place to such an extent that Mick Carney, who was alive at the time, he cussed me out after the spar. Any anyone who knew Mick will know that he was like that. Yeah, he didn't pull his punches. He was a very unfiltered type of character, and he was basically cussing me out after the spar. But yeah, that guy pinged my head around. What was his style like? I don't know, like Montel Griffin or something. He was like short and kind of stocky, but fast. And I was taller than him, but he was still able to get the better of me at long range. You know, he wasn't like doing all this work close up. He was like on the outside, jumping in with shots and constantly hitting me with a left hook. Yeah. And then there was a Jamaican guy I used to spar back in the days, pinged me around a few times. He was like Muhammad Ali. I mean, obviously not as good as Muhammad Ali, but his style was kind of like, a little pound shop Ali type styly. That's what his was. So yeah, movers back in the days used to give me the most problems. If a guy got in there and started moving about, I found it difficult to track him down and pin him down. I wanted you to stand in front of me and fight. When people start doing all that moving and fainting and stuff like that, it used to mess me up. Dr. Wu says Anthony Small. Now, Anthony Small was like a light middleweight. He was there at the time. I mean, not there during that particular spar, but he was at Fitzroy Lodge during the time I was going there. Yeah. But no, Anthony Small, never sparred Anthony Small. He's way too small. The fighters who were there at the time, I mean, I was there on and off for quite a while, going back and forth Fitzroy Lodge and a couple of other gyms. But during the years that I used to frequent the lodge, you had people like Dominic Akinlade there. Anthony Small was there. Um, what's that? There was a young guy there who was half Turkish and half Jamaican. I think his surname was Patterson. Was it Amit? Amit Patterson? I think it might have been Amit Patterson. Was he like a lightweight or something? Cole says, Hatman, have you ever been knocked out or knocked down? Not in a boxing ring. I've only ever been knocked down, never knocked out. I've been knocked down in a street fight when I got jumped. Yeah, got knocked down then. Leo says, thoughts on Vibes Cartel. He looks crazy. That's all I could say. He looks crazy. Should he even be out? You know? Should he even be out? It's a big moral question in Jamaica right now. Should Vibes Cartel even be out? Because the Privy Council, this is the weirdest thing about the whole Vibes Cartel situation. The UK Privy Council somehow got involved in his case. Like, what's all that about? Why would the UK Privy Council get involved in Vibes Cartel's case? How bizarre is that? you know, because presumably the UK Privy Council, that's going to involve Prince Charles, right? King Charles now. So why would King Charles or the people around him want to help out some Jamaican reggae DJ? I don't get it, especially considering what he was in prison for. Weird. I don't know. Maybe they got the right guys with the funny handshakes on Vibes Cartel's team, you know, to give the right funny handshake to certain man in the UK and patterned it up for him. I don't know, man. It's weird. BG says King Charles might be a fan. yeah, that'd be the that would be the maddest one, right? If King Charles was a fan of Vibes Cartel, that would be the most bizarre thing ever. I can't imagine that's the case. That would just be too weird. The world is weird enough as it is without that. But yeah, my boxing never got dropped in boxing. Got dropped. Well, if you can even call it a street fight. It was when I was in secondary school. I got jumped by like three guys when I was in secondary school. And the first guy who hit me, I wasn't even, he waited till I turned away. It was like three of them. They waited till I turned away and then they attacked me and I ended up on the ground. It's like, come on. It's a sucker move. Ghetto Genius says, how old are you? Old. As old as dust. Okay, this guy says, why did they jump you? To be fair, they jumped me because I probably deserved it. Yeah, I probably deserve. Well, I didn't probably deserve it. I did deserve it, but the thing is, I didn't deserve it from them. But those of you who believe in karma, you know, maybe if you believe in karma, that was my karma because I was a bit of a menace in school, you know? I'm not proud of it, but I was a bit of a menace. And I was putting out a lot of bad vibes and doing, mean stuff. And it attracts the wrong kind of attention when you behave like that. So it is what it is. Corey says, is it crazy that I think Caballero has the best chance of beating Usyk at the moment? No, it's not crazy. Caballero has proven himself to be a bit of a dark horse. Although, taking the unbeaten records of Makhmudov and Sanchez, it's good, obviously, but how good are Makhmudov and Sanchez? Makhmudov has come back since and been beaten again. And Sanchez, well, he looked injured in the Caballero fight to me. I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but to me, he looked like his leg was mash up. And the commentators were saying the same thing. He was just laying on the ropes from like the second round on. But because that card was put together quite quick, that was the one that was last December, wasn't it? Because that card was put together quite quick. Was it the December one or was it the Fury? Anyway, it was one of the Saudi cards. And as I understand it, Sanchez, didn't have that much notice in terms of if he did have an injury. But the money's so good, he couldn't turn it down. One of those ones. So again, I'm not trying to make excuses for the guy, but to me, he looked like he was injured in there. And he's a guy that relies on his movement. If he was a slugger, then you'd say, well, it shouldn't really matter that much because he's only going to stand in the middle of the ring and swing it out. But Sanchez relies on his legs and not being able to move. I'm not saying he would have beaten Caballero, by the way, if he did have his legs, if he wasn't injured. But I don't know. I'd like to see Caballero in there, and he deserves to get an opportunity to go up against a proven commodity, a known quantity in the heavyweight division. Caballero absolutely deserves that opportunity, no doubt. Yeah, if you think he's the guy to beat Usyk, hey, maybe he is. Maybe he can take it even further. Shout out to Harry for the super chat. He says, have you seen the new Stan Dubois interview? Would like to hear your thoughts on it. He comes across as a bit of a narcissist. Stan Dubois is a proper Del Boy type character. I mean, he's like Del Boy at the end of Only Fools and Horses, where Del Boy eventually became a millionaire. Yeah, that's what Stan Dubois is like. He's like Del Boy that actually made it because he worked apparently as a market trader, market stall and all that. And you can see it in him. You can see that he's a ducker and a diver and all that type of business. And he's raised all his kids to be fighters. So he's a proper natural businessman, a natural hustler. And to be that way, yeah, most people who are self-made like that are going to be a bit, narcissistic to some extent. But, narcissism is a scale, right? It's a spectrum. It's not like a narcissist is one thing and every narcissist is equally narcissistic. No, there are degrees of it. And there are malignant degrees. I'm not sure that I would put Stan there, but all I can say is I tried to watch an interview with him. I think it was on Seconds Out. And he was like laughing after every single question. And I laugh a lot. Some people used to call me Dr. Hibbert in the comments on my channel because I laughed that much at random moments. But with Stan Dubois, he was laughing at stuff that weren't even like Danny Flexen, who was asking him the questions. I think it was Danny Flexen. Wasn't even coming with any jokes, but Stan was laughing anyway, literally after every single question. And I was like, okay, this is weird. I had to turn the interview off. I just found it was just jarring for some reason. But that's just me. Shout out to everybody in the chat. And I mentioned it earlier. Please go subscribe to my live stream channel because most of my live streams are going to be on there. I've already done a few live streams on that channel. I want to get that second channel popping. So please click the link in the description box below and subscribe to my live stream channel because that's where most of the action is going to be moving forward. I did a watch along for Johnny Fisher versus Alan Babbage. The fight obviously didn't last long, but you'll still hear my reaction up on there at a time. So click the link in the description box. Subscribe to my live stream channel, please. AB says, Hatman, have you ever done punditry or have ever thought of doing it in mainstream since you're this good? You and Ade can make a great team at DAZN. I've been asked this question many times over the years. And I have had offers, not from, well, I had an offer from, I won't name the boxer, but it was a promoter, okay? And they offered me something by way of promoting their fighters, one of their fighters' fights on my channel, right? And that would have involved some type of punditry and all that kind of thing. I've also been offered, this is years ago now, work for various boxing websites and so on. But the answer is always the same, and it's very simple. I don't like working for people. Yeah, I've been, the last time I worked for someone was 2009. Yeah. After that, I started my own business and I never looked back. So I don't like working for people. I don't like being under anyone else's regime. I don't like, having to stick to, deadlines that other people set and having to ask permission to take time off and all that kind of stuff. I told myself back in 2009, I will never work for anyone again as long as I live. And I didn't even know what I was going to do at that point. All I knew was I'm never going to work for anyone again. I have to be the master of my own destiny. I have to be my own boss. I can't work for people. Yeah. Psychologically, I'm just not wired for it. Yeah. Not everybody's wired to be an employee. And that's no disrespect because I've been an employee in the past. But I'm not wired for it. And because I'm not wired to work for someone else, I was a terrible employee, truth be told. So although I might have a certain degree of ability in terms of communication and boxing knowledge, so on and so forth, maybe I've got a certain charisma, maybe I've got a certain personality that people like. But the structure of, being an employee, the structure that you have to adhere to, the regime, the what's the word I'm looking for, the term I'm looking for? The hierarchy. I don't like it. So, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. I prefer doing my own thing. And Ade has done fantastically well. He's done fantastically well. I remember when he was on his old channel with his friend Ryan. It's called Box Talk. And it was obvious then that Ade had a talent for presenting. It was obvious. I think he then got a job. I think his first punditry job might have been in Africa. He was working in a few places in Africa, and then he went to Sky briefly, and then he joined DAZN. So yeah, he's always had the talent for it. You could see, even from the Box Talk days, that he had a presence on camera, a presence on screen. Okay, somebody says a collie. I guess you're guessing which fighter I was being asked to promote. It wasn't Lawrence Okolie. You'd be surprised who it was. You'd be surprised who it was. The irony of who it was. I've still got the email. The irony of who it was. Which fighter's team contacted me. The irony of who it was. I'm going to drop this one clue and it's probably going to give it away. I swear down on my life. All right. I was contacted. I'm not sure if it was him himself that wrote the email, but it was by his representatives. And I'm going to say it was representatives of the Fat Controller. Yeah. They offered me a deal. They said I could be at the fight and do this and that. And I'd have to do this on my channel and blah, 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 blah. And then put me up at this hotel. Yeah. The Fat Controller. If you know about Thomas the Tank Engine, you should know who the Fat Controller is. Harry's big up Harry for the super chat. Says, in your prime as an amateur, are there any current heavyweights you'd fancy yourself against? Surely you'd box Steve Robertson's head off. Yeah, sometimes people ask me that question, but I don't really like to even go there because, anyone that's actually fought or, even had an amateur fight or done any kind of boxing at all, you've got an ego. You have an ego and your ego tells you that you can beat certain people and you can do certain things. But unless you've actually gone in there and turned professional and beat professionals, it's just going to sound ridiculous for me to come out and say, oh yeah, I could beat this guy or beat that guy. I might tell people in private, but publicly I wouldn't come out and start, oh yeah, I reckon in my prime I would have beaten this one and that one. It just sounds ridiculous because I never had a professional fight. So, I don't even like to go there. In my head, yeah, in my prime, there's lots of people I think I could have beat. But maybe that's just delusions of my ego, Anyway, peeps, I'm going to shut this down. Shout out to everybody in the chat, everybody was locked in, especially everybody who super chatted as well. All the old school guys, all the new school guys. Shout out to everyone, guys and girls. Much love. Please subscribe to my dedicated live stream channel. It's called Hatman Boxing Live. Link is in the description box below. Peace and love. Should I go out with a song again? I know you guys love my terrible singing. You guys love my terrible singing. Let me give you an encore. Them a penny me, can't study me. For no reason at all they criticize me. Them can't trouble me, neither worry me. I'm protected by the power of the Trinity. I'm like a seed planted in fertile soil. I bear good fruit and you know that can't spoil. Pot it a bubble and food it a boil. I'm a survivor, I tell you all the while. All right, I'm out.